I'm your host, and you're watching this channel. And today, we bring you another great story from history's greatest stage. You know, sometimes in life there are pivotal moments where one person's words can shift the course of history. Today, let us explore one such moment through the life of a leader, whose words not only inspired his nation but became a beacon of hope during World War II. Join me as we delve into the life of Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill. Now, when you think of Winston Churchill, what first comes to mind? For me, it's a strong-jawed, pipe-smoking bulldog of a man standing firm against the Nazi threat. But our story begins long before he was donning his iconic suits. Picture this, November 30th, 1874. The setting Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire, England. It might sound like the drawing room of Downton Abbey, but here's where our protagonist took his first breath. Born into the British aristocracy, young Winston's early years were marked more by privilege than hardship. Both his parents were prominent figures. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, a politician, and his mother, an American socialite, Lady Randolph. This blend of European lineage and American charm would shape Winston's character in ways you would unexpect. As a child, Winston displayed traits that would become hallmarks of his personality: stubbornness, rebelliousness, a fierce independence, and a lion's share of determination. These weren't qualities typically associated with pampered aristocratic kids. They were traits that hinted at the kind of grit that could steer a nation through turbulent times. His early education was a mix of private tutors and Harrow, the prestigious boarding school. Here, young Winston began to flex his intellectual muscles, showing a knack for history and an aptitude for languages. But his real education was about to come from a very different classroom, the School of Hard Knocks. At 19, Churchill decided to follow in his father's footsteps and join the army. Specifically, he wanted to be part of the cavalry, the dashing, high-spirited arm of the military. However, fate had other plans. During the Second Boer War in South Africa, Churchill found himself captured and imprisoned for 2 Boer prison camps. In fact, Churchill wasn't your typical military brat. He craved action, daring, and adventure. But now he was stuck behind bars, yearning for freedom. This experience wasn't just a physical confinement. It was a mental challenge that would forge Churchill's character. He wrote to his wife, "I have been through hell. I am going through it now. I will come out of it stronger and better than ever." And he did. He escaped twice. Yes, you heard right, twice. First attempt thwarted, Churchill went all out again. This time he made it to Portuguese East Africa, which is now Mozambique. After a dramatic escape from a sinking ship, he found himself in London. Back in familiar territory, Churchill was ready to turn the tables. He published a gripping first-hand account of his imprisonment, London to Ladysmith via Pretoria. In one fell swoop, he became a celebrated author and a war hero. Returning to South Africa, he led a thrilling mission to secure a port for the British forces. By the end of the war, he was awarded the Distinguished Service Order for his valor. At the age of 26, Churchill had already lived more lives than most people do in a lifetime. A soldier, a prisoner, a writer. He was a true Renaissance man of the battlefield. But the world was yet to see the full scope of his talents. Over the next few years, Churchill's career took him through various political territories. He held key positions like First Lord of the Admiralty and Home Secretary. Yet he wasn't just climbing the political ladder. He was actively shaping the political discourse. In the years leading up to World War II, he sounded the alarm about the growing threat from Nazi Germany. While many dismissed his warnings, Churchill stood firm, convinced that appeasement would only invite war. He famously declared, "You can't appease a crocodile hoping he'll eat you." Eventually, he went from being a lone voice in the wilderness to becoming Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on May 13, 1940. This wasn't just a promotion. It was a call to arms. The war that Churchill had been bracing for had finally erupted. France had fallen, and the British Expeditionary Force was trapped in Dunkirk. It was a national disaster, a catastrophe that threatened to shatter the very core of Britain. But it was also the moment Churchill's destiny had been leading to. Now, if you've seen the movie Darkest Hour, you've got a glimpse of this historical crossroads. Gary Oldman's portrayal of Churchill in the lead-up to his first speech as Prime Minister captures this tension perfectly. Churchill stepping into the role with a mix of trepidation and resolve. In the film, he grapples with the enormity of the task ahead, the weight of expectation pressing down on him, and he doesn't shy away. Instead, he rises to the occasion, delivering one of the most iconic speeches in British history. But hold on a second, this isn't the end of the story. Let's go back to the beginning. Imagine you're in Britain in 1940. The streets are filled with uncertainty, fear, even despair. The mighty British Empire seems to be on the brink, and the future looks as bleak as a winter's day. Then comes that fateful day when the House of Commons convenes. All eyes are on the new Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. What will he say? How will he lead? As Churchill takes to the floor, a hush falls over the assembly. He begins to speak, and with every word he chips away at the prevailing fear and doubt. He doesn't sugarcoat the situation. Instead, he lays it bare, telling the British people that they face a time of trial, that their very freedom is hanging in the balance. But here's the twist. Amidst this grim reality, Churchill injects a dose of defiance. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. These words aren't just a rallying cry. They're a lifeline thrown to a nation drowning in fear. They're a testament to the power of words to inspire, to uplift, and to unite. Let's take a moment to appreciate the genius of these words. They're not lofty, they're not abstract. They're rooted in the everyday, in the streets and hills that the British people know so well. Churchill isn't talking about some distant, abstract battle. He's putting the fight right where they live, making it personal, making it real. Now, let's fast forward to the present. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself in a dark, daunting place. Maybe it's a crowded exam hall, the final question looms before you, or perhaps you're facing a tense job interview. Your palms sweat, your heart pounds. Suddenly, those words from the past echo in your ears. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall not surrender. In that moment, you feel a surge of strength, a reminder that you've got this, that no matter how daunting the odds, you've got the power within you to rise up and face whatever challenges come your way. And that, my friends, is the enduring legacy of one of the greatest speeches in history. But our story doesn't end there. After his rousing speech in the House of Commons, Churchill went on to deliver a radio address to the British people. His words resonated with the same defiant spirit. He acknowledged the gravity of the situation, the difficult days that lay ahead, but he refused to let fear dictate their response. Churchill's speeches weren't just about bravery. They were about unity, about a collective resolve to stand firm against tyranny. He understood the power of language, how it could galvanize a nation, how it could make the intangible tangible. Fear itself became a weapon in his arsenal. He turned the enemy's strength into a source of national unity, reminding the British people that they were fighting not just for themselves, but for generations to come. In the darkest hours of World War II, when the shadow of war loomed large over Britain, Winston Churchill stood as a beacon of hope and resilience. His famous speech in the House of Commons and his radio address to the British people remain powerful testimonies to the human spirit, his capacity to overcome even the direst of circumstances. In his words, we find inspiration to face our fears, to unite in the face of adversity, and to fight for a future worth living. So the next time you find yourself in the grip of fear or doubt, remember the words of Sir Winston Churchill. Remember that you have the strength, the unity, and the resolve to not just endure, but to triumph. And that's the story of Winston Churchill and the speech that saved Britain.